Hi,
My name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Naisha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
All right, my friends, once again, it's time to get our talk on. It's Morning Talk with me, your host, J.C. McCauley. Of course, I'm never alone. Not alone this morning. We got a couple of champions of talk here. Tilt that camera down, cameraman. There we go. The camera people get lazy over the holidays, you know. We got Jonathan Small with us and Vicky Fennell. Let's start off here with Mr. Jonathan Small. Mr. Jonathan, how you doing there, sir?
I'm doing okay. It's good to be back here again. Seems like we're getting down to the last week of the year. So pretty much glad to finish out the year on AccessTV.org, a network.
All right. Then finish out the way you started, huh?
Exactly.
All right. Jonathan Small. Also, we have, of course, with us Vicky Fennell. Miss Vicky, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good for a Monday morning.
Pretty
After
good
the
for a Monday
holiday.
morning.
Got my green tea here.
Green tea after the holiday.
Green tea after the holiday, yes.
All right.
It was great.
All
Quiet.
right. Quiet.
Yeah, I think everybody had a quiet holiday. There was nothing loud and boisterous about it, that's for sure.
Yeah, it was
Different. I've never seen anything like this.
quiet holiday. You know, my holidays are generally like this because it's really kind of like
Come down.
kind of like a home, stay home kind of a thing, or
Yeah.
maybe might visit a like an in-law. You know, my mother-in-law's birthday is the 25th, so
Oh, well, happy birthday,
it was actually
Mom-in-law.
quite festive.
Well, that's nice.
But we didn't have more than 10 people.
Okay.
Yeah, more than
COVID police, huh?
10. COVID police.
That's a lack of a better word.
Don't admit to more than 10, at least not on the air.
That's right. Never, ever.
Right. Examples are in heavy need of good examples.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it rained pretty much most of the day on Christmas, but it was warm. It wasn't cold.
A warm, rainy Christmas.
Seemed a little odd to me.
Yeah.
Liquid
last
snow.
year it was cold.
It was cold.
Very
I
cold
can't
last year, I remember.
Yeah, I guess it was because I can't remember exactly last year, but it was rainy, and I guess you always kind of picture Christmas as a little snow, cold.
Not this year.
Not this year.
Everything was gone. I couldn't. It didn't even look like we had a snowstorm.
Yeah.
It was like now you see it, now you don't.
Well, so how's your week been there, Jonathan?
Cowboys won, so
Cowboys did
Finally.
win.
we were 2 in a row. We may be going to the playoffs if we win.
And they beat
in
the
a
Eagles,
couple-
right?
We beat the Eagles. That was an
You may
interesting
still be
game.
able to get your jacket.
Yeah, I done forgot about the jacket now. I said, well, you never know. It might pop up. But they won, and it was just, I guess, an interesting game to me. They looking good, though. I got to give them credit. They really looked impressive. I think there was another game on the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Colts. That was an interesting game, too.
Big Ben.
Big Ben, yeah. I thought Pittsburgh was going to lose that game for sure. And then they came back. I still think Kansas City Chiefs is the team to beat, but you never know.
You never know. You know, we're going for the Broncos. Broncos Super Bowl champ.
I haven't paid attention to the Broncos, to be honest.
Well, you know, Brady. So
Brady.
you know.
Oh, that's right. No, Brady's with Tampa Bay.
I mean, I'm sorry, Buccaneers.
The Buccaneers.
What did I say, Bronco? I didn't mean
You-
to.
yeah.
I meant Buccaneers. Tampa Bay.
Buccaneers. Okay.
Yeah, Tom, terrific.
They won this week. They had won, right?
Yeah, they won.
They won.
They won. Yeah.
New England, did they lose? I think. No, they
Oh,
did
New
play.
England lost. Yeah, they're done. They're done. They'll be in the playoffs starting in the spring.
Springtime.
It's not my own. I took that from Joe D. from the 50,000 watt flamethrower WTIC AM in the morning. I heard him say that this morning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I can't take credit for that. That was Joe D'Ambrosia.
Oh, okay. They're done though, pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see how the playoffs work out.
Yeah.
But also, I took a walk downtown, kind of a little preparation for this show, just to see what the vibe was like. This was Saturday, and again, it was pretty quiet.
Yeah, I rode around downtown this weekend. I think it was Friday night. I want to say Friday. I think it was Friday because I took my oil to be changed, and I came back across the bridge, and I went into downtown Hartford. It was depressing. I mean, I've driven around downtown at night, and it's generally depressing, but it was overly depressing.
Yeah, I don't even, I get on the highway and I just leave.
Yeah.
It's sad. It really is.
Yeah.
But now, you think, again, the COVID is really playing a role? Because you think if we didn't have the COVID, like last year at this time, was downtown bustling, or was it about the size?
Well, it's kind of like
the restaurants were open. I remember.
It's kind of like being in a gondola of a hot air balloon, and someone sets the strings on fire. So I mean, you're not doing well anyways, just to be blown around by the wind. So you're at the mercy of the environment. But when someone sets the ropes that hold the gondola to the balloon, you're done. And I think that's kind of what COVID has done to downtown Hartford, at least. But,
well, I think again that's a legitimate excuse, and if that's the reason, if it wasn't for the COVID,
well, the reason is the reason.
Will
always be the reason, but that doesn't change anything. The reason the truck crashed is good to know, but it don't help. It doesn't help the situation. But maybe we'll talk about this a little bit later.
I think we will have a lot of interesting things to talk about this morning.
Yeah, Miss Vicky, how was your week?
Oh God, it feels like I was on vacation. It was quiet. It was quiet, but it was very busy too for me. Just a lot of stuff with the family, and I had times where I could relax and did so, but just a lot of activity, a lot of cooking, no baking. And I mean, it was what it was, I talked to a few friends, and that was it. But it was just quiet, very, very quiet.
Very quiet. Now, you said it was unseemly quiet.
I felt it was.
That's interesting.
Yeah, quiet. Very quiet in Blue Hills.
Well, excuse me. Sometimes that's a good thing because what took place over the weekend in other parts of the city was not quiet. So
goodness.
Be thankful, actually, that it was quiet and peaceful.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
And Blue Hills, of course. In most cities, all of Hartford is a neighborhood. So
so close and so small.
Everything is so small and so close together. I mean, if it was L.A., or Philadelphia or New York or any larger city, what happened downtown and on Schultz's place. And
yes.
All kinds of places. It would all be, the whole city would feel the impact. It wouldn't be like only in downtown. I mean, I think the whole city should feel the impact because it's a small town. So it's not like, well, that was across the street, so it doesn't really affect me. I mean, it's getting to be that kind of isolation.
Yeah, a dead body in a burnt car. I would assume the person was, killed, but he could have been killed in the fire. I don't even know.
Not a lot of details.
Not a lot of details on that incident.
Yeah, sad situation to say the very least. Well, let's jump into our morning conversation here. We're going to talk a little bit about economic development. I'm anxious to have this conversation and to hear from our special guest. So, as is the tradition here on Morning Talk, we're gonna let Jonathan have the pleasure of introducing our guest. He's the official booker of guests. Jonathan.
Well, again, this is a returning guest to AccessTV.org network. He was a guest August I actually looked at the show last night, August 25th, 2016, on Face to Face, and I decided to invite him back to the network. And this person has a lot of key expertise in economics development, because he is the director of, I guess he's the economic director of development, or he is the director of economics in the city of Stamford, Connecticut, no other than Thomas Madden. Good morning, Thomas.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me back on the show. Absolutely excited to be here.
Okay.
Good to have you here.
Love your sign.
It's one of our art projects we have going on here in Stamford.
Is that an exclamation point that's in the red there?
It is.
I love it.
Exclamation point. So it's Stamford.
Stamford,
we're
yes. Love it. Got to be a cheerleader for your city.
Oh, it is. So yeah, it's like I said, we're doing a lot of great stuff. Like I said, I'm glad to be back on the show again. It's, I guess, almost 4 years now. This is,
4 years. I didn't realize
I
it was
that. Doing this at least yearly, I think.
Okay. Well, again, your role as the director of economic development is an appointed position by the mayor, I believe, of Stamford, David Martin. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
So he appoints me. So every time he gets elected, I get to keep my job, I guess. So that's not too bad. But it's I got to say, what's happening here in Stamford, we've just got a lot of stuff going on here. We've got a rolling $6 billion worth of development that is sort of ongoing and has been ongoing for at least the last 5 years here. It's just a lot of cranes going up, buildings going up, and companies coming in. So it's kind of nice to be in a spot where you actually are getting a lot of work done.
Thomas, has the COVID situation slowed any of the economic development and the commercial real estate development in Stamford over the past year or so?
No. So with the governor's executive orders, he allowed construction to keep moving along, unlike the shutdown that they had in New York State. And so all of our projects have been they're continuing the construction schedules. In fact, a few of them have accelerated their construction schedules. So we have a large number of apartments, roughly about 1,600 apartments that are under construction right now. A majority of those projects were accelerated to try to meet the demand. It was interesting. So over our time period here, when the shutdown happened really in March, and then as people started to move out of New York City, you've seen the stats on that, they were moving into Stamford. So either buying houses or coming to our apartments. And it was interesting because we track a lot of this stuff, and our apartments were running roughly about 93% occupancy. And they've now moved up to 97% occupancy, which was already at 93-ish, 94, was one of the highest occupancies in the United States. And now we are just sort of off the charts now in terms of it. So we can't build the apartments fast enough to supply a housing to meet that housing demand that is out there.
And this was actually taking place even before the COVID situation that was pushing a lot of people from New York into certain parts of Connecticut, including Stamford.
It was. So we had a lot of people moving out of New York just because they were, getting pushed out because of the price point there and moving up to Stamford here. Now, you look at Stamford, we're much cheaper than, say, some of Westchester and definitely New York City, but we're not as cheap as everywhere else in Connecticut. And I always point that out. It's sort of because of the radius that we are within that New York City sphere that does influence some of that pricing. But a lot of people are moving out of the city to come up here. And it's been great to see a lot of new faces, new people, new residents move up. So we're really enjoying it, and they're really having a great time. And this is sort of one of the things that we've noticed that, as the shutdowns were happening, a lot of the corporations were not bringing their people into work at all. And where we were finding was the apartment and the residents that moved into them were sort of filling a little bit of that void from the office workers not being here. So our restaurants, we've had an impact on our restaurants, but not to the extent of some of the smaller places where people just weren't going out. We still got people going out here and doing a lot of ordering and takeout.
I'm going to ask you one question. I'm going to see if the co-host and the host of the show have anything that they want to ask you. This Harbor Point project that I believe started it in 2008 is labeled or considered one of the biggest redevelopment projects or urban development projects in the country. Could you just kind of give a little breakdown on this Harbor Point project that has been ongoing and, you know, pretty much what this project is designed to do?
Sure. So Antares was the original developer of this project in our south end, right below the train station, so south of 95 and the train station. And this area was all brownfield. So you had Pitney Bowes, which had a giant manufacturing plant that was down there. You had Yale Town and Lock, which had its old buildings down there that were basically falling apart. And then you had oil tanks and a bunch of coal-burning energy plants. So a lot of areas that basically were, you know, being shut down and turning into brownfield. So Antares came in and they proposed a master plan for the south end. And so they were moving forward through it. We did a lot of work. It was almost 3 years worth of work just to get it approved. And then the Great Recession happened. And so unfortunately that company went bankrupt. But Building and Land Technology came in and bought up the project itself and has been building it up really since 2010, redoing the buildings and building new buildings down there. And they're getting close now to finishing up they've got about 4 buildings left to build out of that entire project. So the project itself is about 4,200 apartments. We've seen plans for additional apartments down there, so we'll probably add in another, hopefully, 1,500 to 2,000 more residents or more units down there. Plus, on top of that, they built all this office building down there, which we've had a lot of companies moving into, as well as a giant amount of retail. So we've, you know, sort of to service the people that are living in those apartments now. But it's a great project. It's redone the waterfront. It turned all of our brownfield actually into more valuable property and put it onto our tax rolls for us.
Stan and Vicky, you have anything?
Yeah, what is it that Stamford does that's different? What kind of incentives are you all offering companies and developers that make your spot a hot spot in the state?
Honestly, we don't offer any incentives at all.
Okay.
There's a lot of there's a lot of sort of rumors out there, and I have to fight this on Facebook all the time, the social media. But we don't offer any incentives to the developers. They're coming in, paying the full freight plus their, for the property taxes and everything else. We do work with the developers to expedite their permits, make sure we have the inspections, and move them along as quickly as possible. In terms of the companies, we really work a lot with David Lehman, Commissioner of DECD. The state does have some economic packages, and usually that is just to help with the company moving and sort of setting up. But the state has really changed even those packages where it's sort of you get paid as you go. So the more jobs you create, that money then comes to you. Whereas before they were sort of cutting checks and trying to buy some companies. We've seen the state really change that, and companies are responding to that. And sort of they look at what's happening here in Stamford in terms of just the placemaking and all the events and the new parks we're putting in and the waterfront access. And they're finding that if they move up here, they've got this giant workforce that is moving into Stamford that they get to pick from.
Oh, go on. I didn't mean to cut you off.
The other thing that we're addressing with a lot of our development too is I mentioned the affordability, and we're a little bit pricier, but we do have a 10% affordability clause as we build out all of these apartments. So any new apartment building has to have 10% affordability. So if you've got a 375 unit apartment building, you're going to have to make sure we have 38 units that are dispersed among, throughout the entire apartment at different, annual median incomes. For people to qualify and to make sure that we are covering everybody that needs to be covered to get them into Stamford and have lodging for them.
Wow, that sounds. I'm listening to what you're saying. I'm thinking about other places. I won't bring them into the conversation.
You and me both, Stan.
I was just talking with the mayor about this because we were talking to a few people, and we looked at it. We've built roughly just over 1,200 affordable units in the last really 8 years. The next closest municipality is Norwalk. I think they had 600. So again, we're really trying to make sure we do our part for all levels of the social economic income, scale, so that they can, come to Stanford and work here.
Wow, that's fabulous. Now, one thing that you were talking about earlier was the rush for the apartments, and I have a theory. That's all it is. There's nothing to prove it, and it's an observation. I don't know if the same is down there, but out here in Hartford, where we are, one of the things that I've observed, this is totally anecdotal. And part of my theory is that you got a lot of young people, of which I was one once. When I moved to Hartford, I was 19. Oh my gosh. Jeez, I'm 61. Yeah, I was 19 when I first moved to Hartford. And it's my theory that, a lot of times people move into cities as kind of like incubators for their upward growth and mobility. And you have a lot of young people that come into the city. And the young people are making a pretty decent salary, I would imagine people coming out of New York are doing very well, particularly down in that region. And if they can afford some of the prices on the apartments, they could also afford housing. So as part of your economic development, do you factor in like how long it's likely for people to remain apartment dwellers as opposed to becoming home owners? And is part of that strategy having them, buy homes in Stanford, or do you see them moving out of Stanford into a surrounding town? Kind of long question, but
that's actually a great question, because we're sort of seeing what we call life cycling. And so you have the young people that have moved into the apartment. They're either getting married, they're having a kid, or, and they just realize maybe this one bedroom is not good enough, or 2-bedroom, or, I want to sort of have that American dream of the house with the white picket fence and raise my kids with a yard. And, I don't want to do what they do in New York City, where it's just, we're running down to the corner park. And so they're moving out. But what's interesting is the people that are retiring or have retired are selling their house because they're like, I've had enough of the maintenance. I don't want to mow my grass. I don't want to paint. I don't want to fix anything. And what we're seeing is sort of a bit of a switch. So you're seeing the young people move into someone's house that just sold, and those people moving into an apartment. So it's sort of the life cycling within the city that we're seeing here. Do we want them to move into Stanford? Yes, we'd love them to keep here, because, we figure once you've established your house of worship, your dentist, your doctor, your favorite restaurants, we want you to sort of stay here and be part of our Stanford community. But, you're going to have people that want to move to Darien or Rowayton or Norwalk or, Greenwich, New Canaan, or around. And that's their prerogative. We hope, like I said, we try to get them to stay here. But what's interesting is we're seeing more and more baby carriages down at these apartments, and people are choosing to stay into the apartments. So, it's a good thing. Like I have an apartment here in Stanford. My wife and my son and myself, all, nice little 2-bedroom apartments. And we love it. It's a lot of fun, and we've got all these amenities that we've really taken to heart as with part of what the zoning board is doing and our master plan is doing, to make sure that you make the quality of life the best quality of life possible.
Now, I do have this might be somewhat of a departure. I had a very good friend of mine way back in my third trial. I think I just I like the pain of losing, like your Cowboys.
Cowboy, yeah.
So the last time I ran for mayor, I had one of my advisors who was an economic guy, and his theory was that economic development had to go beyond just planning for economic development in terms of the city, buildings, and I think that's how most people think of economic development from the city side. But he was talking about economic development in terms of how do we build the economy of people in the city. Do you consider that part of economic development, or is that another component of, let's say, development, if you will?
No, I think your advisor was bang on with that one. So everything, when you look at economic development, everything is interconnected. How is your school systems? Are you able to keep your school systems up? what are you teaching your kids? How are they coming out? Are they going into UConn or into one of the community colleges? Are we getting them to stay here, before they try to run off? The big thing we've talked about with the state is our workforce development and making sure that we have this continuous sort of path for our kids to be able to bring themselves up in that system and to make sure that they are successful. Stanford itself, we've got some great programs. We do the Cradle to Career with the United Way, which is tracking our kids from kindergarten all the way into post-secondary. And they're doing a great job of that just to sort of get the metrics and the numbers behind it. And then we're looking at, we have a ton of other programs. One of my favorite is Future 5, which really works with the kids, right after school to help them get their homework done or get them the tutoring that they need. To make sure that these kids are successful and that they're getting all of the things that they need that maybe they're just not getting at that school point, during the day. So, we do a lot of stuff to make sure that we have a workforce that is ready for the companies that we have moving in here. One of the things that we got awarded a few years ago was an innovation district, and we've been using that money to help develop that innovation district and making sure that we have the small company. So, we just started a brand new incubator with UConn here in Stanford. It's about to open up in January. And that's going to be for new companies coming out with the students out of UConn, that they can sort of start up there and sort of have a place where mentorship and, chance to get money and everything else, that they're able to start moving that company forward. We look at, we've made investments into Girls with Impact. And that is a great program that is basically teaching young women how to become CEOs. And so we've seen several companies that, these high school girls have started sort of spin out. And, we've seen these girls, get some big scholarships to some very prestigious universities from this program. And, we're really trying to make sure that we have this sort of, everybody is doing their part to help, the next generation be more successful than what we are right now.
You have a beautiful train station, I must say. That certainly, I loved it when I was going by there, and I just couldn't believe it. It's very modern, and I think that also helps with your ability to move. You're able to move people in and out very quickly, in and out at the time in New York City. I mean, now this is going back for me maybe about 10 years, but even 10 years ago, I noticed that you all were able to get people in and out. Your Amtrak, your Metro North, and I mean, it's continuous. Tell me a little bit about your transportation system down there, and tell the viewers.
That's a great question. So part of it is we look at this as a regional system. So with Metro North and Amtrak, that gets us really into the Northeast area, with Amtrak going from Boston all the way down to Washington. We tell our companies that are locating here, if you want to fly out of Newark Airport, you can actually hop on Amtrak here and go directly to Newark, hop off and hop on your plane. With Metro North, we sort of see that as an extension of the subway lines out of New York City. Most people don't see it as a subway line, but I do, and be able to use those connections all the way back. You've got a 45, 50-minute express train ride from Stanford into New York, but it's also reverse coming up this way. And we find that, when we've tracked our numbers, we're actually in Stanford a net inbound station now. We have more people coming into Stanford pre-COVID than we're leaving Stanford to go either to New York or elsewhere. And so, again, we're always trying to make sure that we have that up and running and is able to move people in and out. But then the city itself is trying to, over the last few years, Jim Travers, our transportation bureau chief, has really been addressing the last mile part of that transportation. And so we've been improving our pedestrian walkways from that train station into the downtown, and then looking at last mile solutions on making sure that we can move people out of that train station into the companies or up to UConn. And so, with the jitney services that we have here, again, the walking, the biking, we've put an extensive bike pathway network now. And then, looking at what's the future? Is it autonomous vehicles, autonomous shuttles? Are we looking at scooters and things like that? And making sure we try to address some of those issues as we move along.
I'm listening as you're talking, and you've mentioned several different departments, and it seems like there's inner office agency kind of working together. People kind of on one page, a holistic approach. And you also mentioned about working with contractors or developers in terms of helping to get their projects moved through. I know I had some electrical work. Well, let me rephrase that. Some electrical work was done in our house. I rent, so the guy who came to do the electricity said, if it wasn't for the person who owns this house, I absolutely positively, under no circumstance, would be here in the city doing this, because this is the worst city in the world to do anything, because just pulling a permit is like pulling teeth.
Oh, for sure.
And so he refuses to do work in the city of Hartford. But it sounds like you have like a one-stop shop where people can go and just, we will work with you to get things done, as opposed to working against you. And I'm stunned at how many places I hear where the idea or the notion of helping, instead of looking at every opportunity to either extract another dime or something from people who are trying to come into the city. Because you mentioned that you don't really give economic incentives. People want to come there. How do you accomplish that when other cities seem to not be able to do so?
I think a lot of it is you got to train these developers. They're so used to having the handout to help them out with this stuff. And we've just said, no, we're not going to do that. But what we can do is work with the building departments on it. Now, are we perfect here? No, we are not. That we still got issues, with how some of the stuff is done. We're still making changes on our application process and how things are reviewed. You can always make improvements. Everybody wants stuff done faster, and we do our best here to really move things along. We've got a great building department. Bharat, who runs it, does a great job with all the inspectors. But you look at our caseload here. We have a lot of building permits going on. So sometimes stuff slows down a little bit, but we do our best to really try to move things along. Same with the planning board. We work, or the zoning board, who does a lot of the big site plan approvals. We work with them on everything. And making sure that as part of the environmental impact for that building going up, we're getting our exactions that help the city offset some stuff. So if it's making sure we're getting all our sidewalks or a intersection improvement, we're all working together to make sure that this development doesn't have that impact. It's interesting. We had a question the other day. The mayor and I were both talking with a reporter, and she's like, well, it seems like you guys are trying to be the biggest city. And I think the mayor said it best. He goes, well, we're not trying to be the biggest city. We're trying to be the best city.
It sounds like
I think that's what we want to strive for is if we can make the process as easy as possible, we make living here as easy as possible, but also as safe as possible, and having the opportunities for recreation and transportation, and then, sort of building in the equality for everybody, then we're doing our job right.
I got a question for you. How active is the mayor in this? It sounds like the mayor is like fully on board. Is it is it a strong mayor form of government down there?
So we have the mayor. We have the board of reps, which is 40 members, and we, for contracts and everything else, they do have to approve it. So he does a great job in communicating what he would like to see for the city. The mayor himself, he was on the board of reps for 19 years, another 4 years on the board of finance, and he's been mayor now for 8 years. So part of it was when he hired me, I didn't know who he was. They came and found me. And one of the things I asked him was, are you planning to be governor? And he's like, no, I just want to be a 3-term mayor. I want to make sure that we can push this city forward and make the corrections that I've seen in the past that just didn't make sense. And get us on a strong financial footing so we're not one of those cities that goes bankrupt, 20 years from now. And he's been very successful in doing that here.
Thomas, the media has played a tremendous role in Stamford, Connecticut, with a lot of entertainment companies, television and film production companies, and recently, I guess the Golf Channel is going to be moving part of their operation from Orlando, Florida to NBC Sports Group, which is also located in Stamford. When a company like the Golf Channel decides to say that they want to bring their operations from Orlando to Stamford, do they contact you directly?
So we've worked with NBC quite a bit on a lot of the transitioning coming in, and then looking at studio space or helping them make sure they have everything that they need. Mm-hmm. We also, we have a pretty good in terms of packaging. Is so as a company moves in here, we talk to the company, we get them, discounted hotel spaces, we find them meeting spaces. We pump out their, employment information out to the regular public. And then as well, we have, a whole list of real estate agents that can help with the move. We have got moving companies to help them move into Stamford. So we really try our best to be a one-stop shop to help companies assimilate into the city of Stamford and the corporation culture here as quickly as possible. We just set up a couple of meetings with CEOs to meet each other so that, they may have something in common. So that's one of the things that we're working on. Now, our digital media, that's probably one of our fastest growing industries here in Stamford right now. So you talk about NBC Sports, we didn't have the Olympics this year, but we'll have it next year. So when you watch the Olympic sports, everything gets beamed out of Stamford here. Mm-hmm. And so when you see anything that's happening, like I said, that's all Stamford. We've got a brand new building, the Village, which is opening up down on Canal Street. The guys who are building this, Brent Montgomery from Wheelhouse Productions, you may know some of his shows, Duck Dynasty, Pawn Stars. They've moved in there, and ITV America is now headquartering here in Stamford. We have Hawk Snakes Media, which does Breaking Amish, has moved to Stamford. Another reality TV show, The Alaskan Bush People, that's Park Slope Productions. They've just moved to Stamford. We just finished filming the Fortune Fire. That was here in Stamford. Of course, we got the People's Court that's still being filmed here, and we've got a few HBO productions that are ongoing right now. So, we're pretty happy with our digital media and our production companies that are already located here. And I should mention, we still have Jerry Springer here, Steve Wilkos, and Maury here. So can't forget those guys, because Jerry's been absolutely great and a huge champion of Stamford. He loves it.
Those are legacy. Mm-hmm. Legacy. Long time. Wow. Sounds like you have critical mass of great talent down there. I like what you were saying about the bringing CEOs together. Mm-hmm. What happens? What do you guys do for? You talked a little about the incubator, but what do you do for like smaller companies that are? Is there a particular outreach to them? How is growth among the kind of mom and pop type industries?
So that's a great question. So a part of it is we work very closely with the Chamber of Commerce as well as the Downtown Special Services District. And so we work with those two entities right there to do a lot of outreach to our mom and pops. When you look at, within Stamford itself, we don't have a lot of huge chain restaurants here. I think, we can probably on one hand you can count them, wow. The big national chains that are here, if that. But it's a lot of mom and pops. And so we work with the different entities to reach out to them. We put on programming. We have a lot of, during COVID, we've put a lot of stuff onto our Zoom now when we do a lot of webinars. So, making sure that if you're a new business, well, how do you get onto Google and make sure all your information on Google is correct? How do you get your web presence? We do another one on social media. How do you define and do your social media? And what should you be doing on social media to help promote your company? We also look at, we worked with the Greater Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We put on a QuickBooks course in Spanish, and that was, very, very successful. And then, right now we're working on a new minority woman-owned business program here in Stamford. That's our Economic Development Commission is going through right now. So hopefully we'll be able to start tracking a bit more on our minority-owned businesses and getting them really involved, with construction projects or within different contracts. With larger corporations.
That's actually one of the questions that we have a call or viewer. I don't call them callers.
I know, it's almost like caller.
Caller. Our question here on our chat, in the chat room here, says, how many Black / African American subcontractors are working on various projects within the city?
So right now we don't have a good tracking of that. We do for our own city projects, but not on the bigger projects. And so, we've taken a look at what Hartford has done and what Bridgeport has done, and we're going to be putting that model forward here through the springtime through the Board of Reps. We think, it's a forward-thinking look, especially what Hartford and Bridgeport has done. But as we've started to track our construction company, we just don't have a lot of minority-owned construction companies within Stamford. And so that's part of the thing is, maybe if we put this program together, we can get a few more. We can get people that are coming out of the trade program to set up shop here in Stamford because of all the construction, and we can talk to the larger developers and saying, this is what we're looking for in terms of that your development is. We would like to see as part of that approval process, you've got to hire more minority or veteran-owned or women-owned businesses that can help out with this, to give them that sort of start that they need to get going.
Well, that kind of, I guess I would somewhat contradict the mayor's statement. I mean, I'm not going to really directly contradict him, but when you suggested that someone said that Stamford is trying to be the largest city and the mayor, David Martin, said he wants to be the best city, you can be the best city clearly with the development that you have, the projects that you have, the success that you have, the magnet to attract businesses and people to move in your city. But if you really stand out as the best city, you would really want to take it to the other side or the next level to make it diversity, where Black contractors or Black businesses and Hispanic businesses, particularly that you have a tremendous Hispanic population in Stamford. You have an Asian population that's pretty high, and even the Black population, which is not as high as the Hispanic population, but it's still sizable. To say that you have the best city would kind of stand out if other ethnic races could really get the benefit that Stamford really has to offer. And is that something that you think is still a challenge in Stamford somewhat?
Yeah, I do. I think it's definitely a challenge here in Stamford, but I think it's a challenge across all of the Northeast here. When you look at the historic way of the way the Northeast was set up, it just was not in a position to help minority businesses or women-owned businesses or even veteran businesses. This is fairly new, and so this is something that a lot of the municipalities are now starting to address and really have a serious conversation about equity within the city itself. Now, we recognize that. The mayor loves to, he tells all the time, we're probably one of the most diverse cities we have within Connecticut. But again, as any city, we can always do better. I always look at it, if you're resting on your laurels, you're not moving forward. And as a city, that's one of the things we just kind of keep pushing through, over the next couple of years as we start to grow even more and making sure that we bring everybody along with us.
Well, actually, Stamford, I mean, I think I heard a couple candidates for governor. Might have been the last governor's election in Connecticut. I can't remember the exact candidate that made the statement, but it's going to be pretty obvious Connecticut is never going to have a mid-sized city or a large city. And some people feel that's important. Some people feel it's needed. But I believe what the candidate stated is what's really important is that Connecticut have a vibrant city, even if it's a small populated city. And Stamford somewhat seems to stand out as one of the best vibrant cities, not just even in Connecticut, but even throughout the country. Do you think what's taking place in Stamford is going to always continue with the development, the opportunities, and the growth? Or do you think at some point it's just going to become kind of just everything has been built up and you really can't develop too much more? Is that something that you think could happen?
No, I think, as we started, we've been planning out since 2002 when we took a high growth model for the city itself, and our last master plan sort of reinforced that as well. I think you have to look at, there's other parts of the city that we can still go in and see, a increase in development or increase in density in some of these areas. What's interesting is when you actually look at our area, if we were in the Midwest, you put Greenwich, Stamford, Norwalk, New Canaan, Wilton, Darien, Westport, and Fairfield, the town of Fairfield together, we're actually got the same size in square. We'd be actually the 41st largest city in the United States. We'd be on par with Oklahoma City, with a population roughly about 450,000 in the same square miles. And that's part of it is we think of these artificial boundaries that have these unique governments that sort of say, well, we'll never be a mid-sized city, but we actually are. Regionally, when you look at us, and same with Hartford, East Hartford, Hartford, West Hartford. I think that's almost over 300,000 people just in that area. That puts you in the top 100, largest cities in the country. But because we've got 3 different governmental units, you don't get classified that way. So we just have to have a little shift of paradigm. So a lot of the stuff that we do, we work very closely with our neighboring municipalities to make sure that, they're doing what we need them to do, and we're doing as well what they need us to do. So, it's a constant communication through, especially in the lower Fairfield County area, to make sure we have the communication, everybody's doing what we're doing. Doing what we should be doing. And so, I talk all the time to Norwalk. I talk all the time to Westport, to Fairfield. I go up to Bridgeport, talk to the guys up there constantly, and New Haven, just to talk about, as a, sort of the coast area here, what can we do to make ourselves better? And what's going to help us make you guys succeed, and what's going to help you guys succeed that I can do? Or maybe, if I've got a company coming in that is not going to fit in Stamford, well, where can I put them in Connecticut? As opposed to saying, too bad, don't worry about us. I'd rather see the company land in Connecticut, and if I can get it into Bridgeport, New Haven, or somewhere else, that's what I'm going to try to do, because I think then it's a win for the state.
Sounds like great working relationships. It's about relationships, isn't it?
It is. It's a lot about the relationships and the trust with everybody. It was interesting when I first came into Connecticut after coming out of New York. I sort of said, I was watching cities compete with each other, trying to steal businesses from each other. And, I've said this for 6.5 years now. It's sort of like walking into your backyard, still on the same property. You see a picnic basket, grabbing the sandwich out of the picnic basket, and then walking to the front of the property, sitting on your porch and eating your sandwich. Still the same property, just the sandwich to the front porch as opposed to being on the backyard on the picnic table. So, we looked at it and said, like I sort of talked to everybody and said, we're not stealing anything. And I'm not coming in to steal any company from any other part of Connecticut, because it just doesn't make sense. How about we concentrate our effort on taking companies out of Westchester, out of New York City, or into the tri-state area, and bringing companies in. And we've been very successful using that model with the companies, with the towns around us to help bring companies in.
The idea or the notion of like Hartford, Connecticut with its 169 towns. Do you think that in a best case scenario that there would be more regionalism where we have less municipalities in such a small state than what we currently do? Or there's no sense in reinventing the wheel if the wheel works fine. But it would seem to me that there can't help but be some of that infighting and backbiting and trying to steal from, and because of the competition and the even though I think you want to work beyond that, there's such
competition.
I don't want to use the word competition. I'm trying to find the right word. I mean,
let me try. So you've got 169 municipalities with 169 elected officials,
right?
With a voter pool that says, "What have you done for me lately?" And so you've got pressure on all these elected officials to bring companies in or bring development in or stuff, and they'll fight among each other. And so what's interesting is you talk about the regional type approach. So I come from British Columbia. And so Vancouver area and a lot of the different parts of the province are broken up into regional districts. And each regional district has to have a regional district plan that then all of the different municipalities then build into their master plans as a region. And so, part of what we've done here is we've got our COG, WestCOG. They did do a economic development strategy for our area here, and we're supposed to be basically building up into that strategy. But it's again, you're trying to get all these different municipalities with different elected officials to build into a regional strategy, which there's really never been an incentive in Connecticut to build into a regional strategy, and that's been the hardest part. So, Mayor Martin started the Fairfield 5, as we called it, a few years ago, and that's Greenwich, Norwalk, Westport, Fairfield, and Norwalk. And basically, everybody trying to work together and say, okay, how can we streamline stuff for our developers? How do we talk to our developers? How do we talk to our companies? What properties do you have available, and how do we actually work together to go out and look for companies as a region? As we've said here in Stamford, I said earlier, we may have companies move in, but the CEO may want to live in Darien or New Canaan. Well, that's fine. But how do we make sure that we have the right offering and saying, as a region, it's okay for people to move around and to live in here? But are we all making sure that we're doing the right thing as a region to move ourselves forward?
Well, kind of, Stan, you took part of my question that I was thinking about asking Thomas about regionalism. And let's say if Fairfield County wanted to become a regionalized city, which city would most likely become the major city? Would it be Bridgeport? Would it be Stamford? Because that would instantly give Connecticut a large city. I don't know if the population in Fairfield County would be 1 million people, but it sounds like it would be about
just under 1 million.
How much?
Just under 1 million.
Just under 1 million people. So that would make either Bridgeport or Stamford the largest, one of the largest cities now in New England, surpassing Boston. And instantly you would, if that's a problem that Connecticut, does not have a large city or can't have a large city, that would. But I think also, would it make either Stamford or Bridgeport more marketable throughout the country? I think Stamford, obviously, you're close to New York, so people can identify Stamford so much with New York. But that would that kind of isolate a city in Connecticut now, that cities throughout the country, larger cities, would look at Connecticut now and say, the new Bridgeport or the new Stamford now is one of the large cities? I mean, is that really needed in your opinion? Also,
we've theorized about that quite a bit and talked about, what would happen if we actually all came together and how would you actually work this? But I'm going to be honest, I don't think that would ever happen because now you're merging all these different school systems together. Right. So you'd have one superintendent under, 10 different municipalities. You've got 10 different first selectmen mayors with 10 different councils, and how are you going to divide that up? It is a very, very complicated thing to do. We looked at it when I was in Greenberg in Westchester, just trying to amalgamate some of the police force together. And that was a 3-year study that ended up basically, it didn't happen. But the cost savings were there. But it comes down to everybody wants to make sure that they're protecting their own little area. And so to take a super city or try to merge something like that, it will never happen. No. And like I said, I've seen it in other areas. Being Canadian, we did see it in Toronto. So you have the greater Toronto metropolitan area. They did do it in Halifax as well. Oh, lost my light. Did it in Halifax as well. And so they merged 4 cities together. But there was a lot of money that was given to these municipalities to merge them together from the provincial governments. I don't think the state government would be in a position with our own current budget and everything else to be able to start amalgamating and putting these cities all together. So, yeah, if you want to talk about regionalism, that is the way to go. But the likelihood of something like that ever happening, very slim and none.
Wow.
So I think the best we can do is, like I said, work with the Fairfield 5, work with all the municipalities, have that open line of communication, and try to work regionally that way.
Well, obviously, you know, it looks like, again, from the conversation we had 4 years ago, the momentum continues to be going in Stamford in many different areas. But again, this Harbor Point project, I mean, it would have been a great show to obviously have, let people see the Harbor Point project. I've been able to look at it online. And is this something that is like other urban projects like the Harbor in Baltimore? Or is this something a little bit unique for people who just don't know what the Harbor Point project is about?
No, so this project, is similar to what Baltimore's doing. It's similar to Granville Island and the Inner Harbor there, where Expo 86 was in Vancouver. You start to see a lot of people starting to redevelop their waterfronts because a lot of people want to be next to the water. And this is sort of, part of where I think Connecticut has missed a little bit is, we still have laws on the books that protect our waterfront for industrial uses. Well, a lot of those industrial uses have been going away over the last 20 years. And you see these vacant areas right on our waterfront. I look at like Bridgeport, like the potential they have just around the harbor there with the ferry and the parks and everything else. And you've got some old manufacturing in the old banana dock. That is something that you could build a Harbor Point like area, within Bridgeport, above and beyond the development for Steel Point Harbor, all the way around. That would really bring a lot of people into Bridgeport, and especially since Bridgeport as well is an Amtrak station right on Metro North, and you've got great access to the highways there. So again, we look at it, there's lots of potential within Connecticut. I like to, Groton's another one that I look at as some great potential, as you move more into the eastern area. And then I look at, Hartford and around Hartford on the river there, potential all the way along for additional development with walkways and apartments and everything else that could really help out, say, downtown Hartford.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, you had mentioned earlier that, even with the COVID, a lot of the commercial development and the real estate development continues to take place. Is the downtown Stamford pretty much through this COVID situation? Is businesses open? Is restaurants, hotels? I mean, how is the whole downtown business playing in this COVID situation?
So downtown, we have roughly 16.5 million square feet of office space here. Now, a majority of that are companies. When COVID really came in and hit, they moved and transitioned everybody to working from home, except for the essential service companies. They kept everybody in. And so we've been surveying them. We're finding that a lot of the companies are not coming back into their office space. So we've got a lot of empty office buildings right now that, we'll start to see people roll in at, say, a 60% mark come March, April, May, and then slowly filling up for the summer. And that's really depending on, when everybody's getting their vaccine and where the numbers are for COVID. The hotels got hit pretty bad here because most of our hotels were during the week, and that was a lot of the people flying in or coming in to work at the companies from another office. So our hotels got hit pretty bad here. The one good thing is our restaurants have been surviving. Are they doing well? No, but they're surviving. And that's because we've got a lot of people who live in the apartments that are doing the takeout, and the remaining people that we have within the offices. We've really worked with the restaurants to do catering into those offices. So because a lot of the cafeteria shut down because they only had, a 10%, 20%, amount of people within the office space itself. So again, people still have to eat. So how do we get that to them safely and working with them? What's interesting is we've had over the last 8 months, we've had 6 or 7 new restaurants open up here in Stamford. And a lot of places have seen restaurants closing down, and I've got restaurants that are opening up here. So like I said, there is a market. We're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and everybody's sort of getting ready to start moving into March, April, and trying to accelerate.
Thomas, do you feel you have a good linkage with state government, being that Stamford is about 80 miles from the capital city? Do you have good political representation from Stamford to the state capital here, the state government in Hartford?
Yeah, our legislative body that's elected here in Stamford. They do a great job. We're actually just meeting with them to talk about things that we're going to need as part of the next session. So, with legislation and bonding and things that we're going to need. I know one of the things that we're fighting for is a change in the formula system. Unfortunately, Stamford gets penalized a little bit because we are successful, but people still seem to forget that we're a very socially and economically diverse city. I've got areas within Stamford that are running 30-40% poverty, and I've got areas within all around next to the downtown area, and that's our largely our African American and our Latino neighborhoods that are running 40 to 50% of the median income, that they're in that area, that is less than $50,000 per year per family. You look at our free and reduced lunches. We have a large number of free and reduced lunches at our schools. So again, we're fighting to get funding and recognition that we're doing our part for the social system out there, and that we need funding as well. We just can't keep dumping this onto the taxpayers for our city. All it does is it causes the property tax to keep going up, which then excludes people from being able to live here. So again, we're fighting with the state to make sure that we're getting our fair share to cover our social programs, that our social programs are doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing.
Well, maybe I can give Stan a little idea. I'm going to ask you a question. You said the depressed area, and I would just go off and assume it's the west side, because I've been to Stamford before, and it looks like the west side, and even the south end, even with the Harbor Point transforming the south end, I see some real depressed areas even in the south end. But the west side of Stamford, where you have the lower income levels, the housing is up to par that I see in other parts of the city. If someone wanted to transform the west side of Stamford and they wanted to make an investment, they wanted to open up a business or a development, would they have to go again and contact you, or would they have to go through some other agencies? How would the whole process be about wanting to do some development?
So we work with a lot of small businesses, and what we do is, first we make sure they have a good business plan, and that they can actually get funding for their business idea. Next thing we work on is location. So we will help them work with different brokers that are out there, and find a location within the city itself that would make sense for them to locate in, that's going to tap into their market. The other thing that we work on then is making sure that, again, those small business programs that I talked about earlier with the social media and everything else, and getting involved in the chamber, to really help them with that B2B aspect. And then we start checking in with them to make sure that they're successful and they're working and they're applying some of the thoughts that we have, or some of the programs that we put together. We do partner with the Women's Business Development Council. They do a great job with women-owned businesses, and they put on a lot of different courses as well. And then we also partner quite a bit with SBDC, the Small Business Administration for Connecticut, out of Yukon, and helping them get funding from the state and things like that. So we work with a lot of our other partners to make sure that it's a holistic approach, and to make sure that if someone's trying to open up a business, they are going to be successful.
Well, Thomas, let's end it on that good note. I mean, we are pretty much out of time for this particular segment, and you did an excellent job again as providing information about the city of Stamford. And I think the only thing I could think of maybe sometime in the future or the new year would be to come down to Stamford and, do some video, and if Stan is interested, and letting people see what Harbor Point is really all about in other parts of the city, because I think it's a dynamite project that you have with Harbor Point. But again, it was a pleasure to have you on this morning, and if anybody else have any questions to say, I can say I'm pretty much said what I had to say.
Well, I've enjoyed what he's had to say, because I can I think I don't want to speak for Vicky, but I think the silence on our part has nothing to do with the guest. It has more to do with he is saying exactly what we
We
want
didn't
to say
That's right.
to certain people here in Hartford. So we'll leave it at that.
Yes.
So, yeah, I enjoyed him immensely.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
appreciate
because
that.
it's not rocket science. It's almost as simple as math if you do it right.
Yeah, I would say just doing your job. I mean, just trying to do the best job that you can do too. On top of that, and like you say, not resting on your laurels as well. You could always improve and do better, and I think that kind of stands out when you mention that, Thomas.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sounds like a lot of excitement down there.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I think that's a great suggestion. If you wanted to come down, I'm happy to give you the tour, shoot some video, just to show you what's happening in the Harbor Point area, but also our downtown and other parts of the city. We see a lot of growth in Springdale and Glenbrook. Our east side, has a lot of growth that's going on through there, but also our west side. We've got, we've been rebuilding out Stillwater Avenue and changing the pedestrian feel. And then, really working with the businesses up there to make it a complete community. And we recognize the diversity within these communities, and we're really trying to bring them in and make sure they get their say on how we look at development in that area, and then as well as our roadway and transportation projects. So, we want to be able to sort of celebrate the diversity and celebrate the differences, as opposed to trying to make it one giant stew pot where it's all amalgamated together and it looks like one thing. And that's what I think is really important when you look at a city is, are you doing those little things to make sure that you have different parts of the city? We look at our Latino areas, and we want to make sure that as we start to do some of the development, we've talked about it internally here, is we want to make sure the roadway projects or the street projects have that Latino flair from a lot of these people's home countries. And what can we do to help out with some of that stuff? And so, again, we've got a long way to go on this. But we are taking those steps forward to make sure that everybody's incorporated in.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. Last comments.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
We will definitely have you back, and I guess as things maybe as the summertime comes,
Field trip.
we'll do a field trip.
That's what I was going to suggest.
Jonathan's always Jonathan. Oh, he remember I said that. Wait, Stan, you said we was going to take a field trip.
Yeah, you just took the words out of my mouth.
Yes, field trip.
Yeah, so that'll be fun. It might when I was younger.
Yeah.
We go down there tonight or tomorrow morning, but you get a little bit older and you're not so quick to run out with a camera. However, I did see some video of the Harbor Point. I think you sent me the video.
I sent it to you. Yeah.
The website is beautiful.
Yeah. And so I think maybe we will do a field trip as the warmer weather comes. And look forward to meeting you face to face again.
Again, yeah.
He was here once.
He was here once.
Yeah.
Great restaurant that can take you to here.
Yeah.
Oh, I would love that.
Yummy.
Okay.
All right.
All
Right, Thomas Madden. And we thank you very much for your time, sir, taking
Yes,
time
thank
out
you.
of your busy schedule.
Thank you.
And continue the good work. Tell the mayor we say hi.
Will do. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you, too.
Okay, Tom.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye. All right, my friends, we're going to do our 9 o'clock top of the hour break. We'll do a little bit of jazz from the Greater Hartford Festival of Jazz a couple years back. And let's see if we can't, do what we can to make sure that happens again. Stick and stay. We'll be right back. Morning Talk. Every bad political decision is made by a politician elected to office. So if you think your vote doesn't matter, just remember this. There are people sitting with politicians in a back room making deals about your future, making policies about your children, making decisions about your neighborhood. To them, you are just a vote. You are not their charity. You are not their cause. You are just a vote. Elections have consequences, and if you don't vote, you are actually voting to keep these people in power to work against you. Now, more than ever, you need to make your vote count. Declare your independence from the plantation of party politics and free your political mind. Yeah, you're gonna be an independent thinker. You know, you just gotta think for yourself, right? Challenge conventional wisdom and think for yourself. I love this. I love this spot. I'm so tempted to play it again. I think I will. Every bad political decision is made by a politician elected to office. So if you think your vote doesn't matter, just remember this. There are people sitting with politicians in a back room making deals about your future, making policies about your children, making decisions about your neighborhood. To them, you are just a vote. You are not their charity. You are not their cause. You are just a vote. Elections have consequences, and if you don't vote, you are actually voting to keep these people in power to work against you. Now, more than ever, you need to make your vote count. Declare your independence from the plantation of party politics and free your political mind. Welcome back. It's Morning Talk. I was thinking of all kind of snide commentary to say after that commercial.
Be nice.
Commercial was snide enough, I guess.
Yeah.
It's Morning Talk. I'm your host, J. Stan McCollum.
Well.
Yeah.
Silence is golden, isn't it, folks?
Yeah, you can do this on television. Radio, this is a death knell. It's just dead air on the radio. But on television, it's a little different. All right. Yeah. You know, if in order to get elected, you had to get empty cans, you know, the 5-cent cans.
Yeah.
Politicians would be digging through dumpsters.
Isn't that something? Yeah.
to get the empty cans.
They'd be all lining
Because
up in
all
that
they care about
list.
is that vote. So
Exactly.
if you got to vote for every can, dumps, man, folk would be out there fighting one another for the, you know, they'd be running around the city with carts stolen from Walmart,
Well,
putting cans in the carts because they, you know, look at what they're doing down there in Georgia. I mean, it's an all-out knife fight.
What's happening now? There's something else
the
that's going on?
special election, you know,
Yes,
they
that I
need the
know.
votes. It's all about those votes. They're saying whatever they have to, doing whatever they can. You gotta get out the vote, because these guys, they need your vote. That's your vote is worth. It's like having an ingot of gold. If you had an ingot of gold would you give it to? Who would you give it to get them in office? Your ingot of gold. Think of your vote as being an ingot of gold. You're going to part with it, and what are you going to get for it in exchange?
Well, when you vote, the candidates, they take your vote and get elected. But what do you get?
That's the question.
For your vote.
What do you get?
It's very little return on investment if we look at it in business terms, depending on what part of the city that you're in. I'm speaking very honestly.
But it's almost like you got to have like a voting block of strong numbers, because the Republicans many times in Connecticut, they don't even put the interest in going into the urban cities because they realize that they're not going to get those votes.
I think that's going to change the next time around. I think you're going to see them campaign competitively. I think it's going to happen. I mean, I think, love him or hate him, Trump has shown a willingness to go after Democratic strongholds. And he was able to get certainly a lot more votes for a Republican this time around than previous Republican candidates. So I think you're going to see them come in and, if they're smart, they will do that. And I think you're going to see Republican candidates do that.
Well, they say the urban cities actually, it always adds up that you just got a higher percentage of voters in the urban cities, even though the state, I don't know if it's the state has more, but the numbers are just higher in the urban cities, and that contributes many times to the governor winning the elections because they win the urban cities, and I guess they have the numbers.
Put the money, and they put the money out there. Let's be honest, they put the street money out there. Street money's not illegal, but they do that.
Right.
Okay, and then at the end, what are you getting for that?
See, I look at it a little differently. I think that we need to have a totally different approach. It's sort of like, you get the Uber guy comes and you say, so what are you going to do for me?
Well, you know what I mean by that. I mean that sarcastically.
Right, but I know. But what are you going to do for me, Mr. Uber driver? Okay, now I'm going to give you, so what are you going to do for me? Where are you going to take me?
Right.
He said, well, where do you want to go? What do you mean, where do I want to go? You should know where I want to go. I called you. And then the yellow cab comes up. What are you going to do for me? I'll take you wherever you want. Well, I don't know where I want to go. Don't matter. Get in the car. I'll find a place for you. You want to go here? You want to go here? Where do you want to go? You want Burger King? Popeyes? Sylvia's in New York. I take you to Sylvia's in New York. That's a good ride.
Yeah.
And then you say, well, I don't know. Maybe I'll take the bus. So you get off that and you get on the bus. Where's the bus going to take you? Now, the bus has a real dedicated route that goes the same way every day, back, forth. But, where are you going to get off the bus? Is your destination on that bus? Instead of us telling the politician where we want to go. And I think we have to move to another level where it's beyond telling them what we want.
Yeah.
Because lobbyists, they don't tell politicians what they want. They craft the legislation, take it to them.
Yeah, they show them.
And show them what we want and shepherd their legislation and desires all the way through. And we settle. We demand more from our sports coaches than we do our politicians.
It's a lack of knowledge of the process, in all honesty. That's really what it is. It is a lack of knowledge. So therefore, to remedy the lack of knowledge is you have to get knowledge.
If we have just a couple people, because I would venture to say that's true, but I would venture to say that most of the employees of United Technologies, or Raytheon now, haven't got a clue on what the lobbyists for the company do.
No.
So, but overall, someone knows.
Yeah, the higher ups.
The higher ups know, and the higher ups don't know as much as the paid lobbyists.
Right.
So they get the people that get the job done for them. So what we need is leadership in our communities that are willing to do what is necessary to move the community forward.
I agree.
Because the community is not ever going to be educated enough to make those decisions.
No, and
no community is.
No, and then particularly if you talk about Hartford, certain segments of it are in survival mode. And so
most of it.
Yeah, most of it. That's right. And so you got people, it's like running that mouse, the mouse chasing the cheese continuously. Well, I got to keep a roof over my head. The kids need this. I got to do this, so they don't have time to really dedicate themselves to that piece. That's important. It is important. But when you're in survival mode, it's just like the analogy that you use with the water. Water's coming in on the boat. You're trying to survive.
Right.
It's not about, well, maybe this next time. No, it's now. It's immediate.
Yeah.
You're right that people have got to step up. Those that know must do.
Those that know must do.
And this is not about I don't like you or I like you. We need to get beyond this. As I say, I'm not on everybody's Christmas gift list, nor do I aspire to be. But if you put me in a room, I'm going to tell you what needs to be done, and I'm going to say what needs to be said, and I don't care how uncomfortable you become. We are sick and tired of being uncomfortable. You need to feel uncomfortable. Let me tell you what it's really all about. This is what we need. It's about equity, and you have to be able to speak in those terms. You can't go in there and negotiate as an infant. You have to negotiate with strength. You have to have a plan, well thought out, well crafted, and you have to be willing to put it out there. Period. And if people don't want to do it, well then fine. We find people who can do it. I mean, the bottom line is, if you're not, it's a business. If you're not producing, then you don't need to be there. Period. Right. And, I don't care how nice you are. I'm nice too. We're all nice people. If you're not getting the job done, you don't have any business doing the job. Go find something else to do, or we'll find you, go find something to do. There's plenty of things to do here, it's not like you don't.
Good intention works when you're building sandcastles.
Right.
Interesting comments, and it kind of ties into something I heard on one of your programs last week. I think it was the Tuesday show. And I think Naisha and Alfonso, but you made a statement too. I think you said basically it doesn't matter how you got in a situation or how you got here. Y'all was talking about fighting to make the communities better. I can't remember word for word, but I know you made a statement that right now it doesn't matter how you got in this situation or how you got here. If somebody dropped you off or you fell on your face, you're in it. And I think even if you're talking about surviving, I guess it does make a difference how you got into your predicament, because then you can figure out the mistakes you made.
So as not to make them again.
Not to make them again, and not to dig yourself into a deeper hole. But when you come to that realization, you have to believe what you're going to be able to do is going to make a difference. And it's not always for the community. Sometimes it's just for yourself individually, because we might have this impression that everybody is trying to fix the whole community and everybody's not on that page. And sometimes it's more harder just to get your own predicament, your own family, household in order than it is to try to fix the whole community. Because sometimes that could take a lot of pressure off of yourself. When you say it's the whole community, everybody's got problems, we got to get this part of the areas of the city revitalized. No, like, the old saying, and Alfonso would say this about Michael Jackson, the man in the mirror theory. You got to look at yourself in the mirror and saying, yeah, I'm in this predicament, I'm in this environment, but I still got to be able to do something to get myself up to the point that I can move forward. And that's not always as guaranteed neither.
No, it's preparation. I mean, I think you have to start working on yourself. That's the foundation before you start. It's like when you're on a plane and they say, well, you got to put that oxygen mask drops down. You got to put the mask on yourself first before you render assistance to somebody else. So yeah, I mean that's important. You have to prepare yourself for these things, for these opportunities before you start. But then I look at some of these folks that are out here, and there's no preparation, and they're out there,
Yeah.
and they're in these positions. There's no preparation.
Well, that would, I guess, that would fit the mold of what Jonathan was talking about.
this is it.
You're there.
Yeah.
And then there is no quick study. You know, for people like us, okay, you dump us in a position, and we might not know everything, but we're gonna seek out the information, and we're gonna do our best. We're gonna put our best foot forward, even if we're not experts. But we will become experts because the desire is there, and that's the key word. The desire is there to do better, to excel.
Well, I think the desire's there to do better. Who's the? I guess it's the quarterback for the Washington.
That's their team. I mean, that's the name of the
for
team.
Washington.
Yeah, the
Football.
other name is not
It's
included
not right.
anymore.
So is it? I don't know whether it's the quarterback or the coach, but I guess the quarterback is in. It's just bad. Mm-hmm. Is that the case
for the Washington team?
for Washington team?
The quarterback. I think it's the whole team though. I think.
Whole team.
Well,
Yeah.
but they was playing pretty good up until a couple games ago, up until the last game. So
I was reading an article, but see, I don't know enough about football to know
Yeah.
whether they were talking about the coach or the quarterback, because they said, you know, there's a lot of blame to go around, but he was first, second, third, fourth, and probably eighth in line for what was wrong with the team.
Yeah.
Okay. But whoever this was, I'm sure he was trying.
They're just not
And he's
gelling,
good.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's just not better than everyone else.
Yeah.
And so sometimes people might be prepared, but they're not prepared enough.
Then they get cut from the team. I
They
mean, that's
get-
what that's
like
what the
I
coaches
said,
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The coaches are us. We're the ones that keep electing people who are quote unquote not prepared. Now, because they put themselves out there doesn't mean that they're the only ones we can vote for.
Right.
We're the ones that decide. Well, you know you're working at McDonald's fast food, but you know you don't like the fryer later, and you don't like the sound, the smell of meat cooking, and so you got all these things that you don't like. But I'm gonna give you a shot. Well, no, the red flags were everywhere. Why would you hire this person?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So I think that we have to be much more. We have to be much more responsible and in control.
And educated about. We have to make very good decisions. We don't make good decisions as a community in terms of selecting candidates. You know, I think the criteria that we use is, well, you know, he's a nice guy. That's number one. Number two is I know him. So those are the two.
Number one reason why people vote.
Those are the two reasons
are
right
the
there.
Name record, because they
Right.
know the person.
Now, if
That's
you
not
ask
gonna
that,
change.
that's right. And if you ask the third question is, well, do you know anything about the program these people are putting forward?
They don't care.
That's right.
They don't. They're not going to. So we have to. I think we have to make the adjustment in light of the fact that they don't. Because if we keep looking to them to be up to snuff on what the plan is versus the opponent's plan, then we're not.
Well,
they're not.
Stan,
They're just not
when
going
you
to.
ran, the question I posed to some people in the community was, okay, you're telling me about your man. What's his plan?
They don't know.
They got mad at me because I asked the question. I said, no. Don't get angry with me. If your man is the man, okay, in quotes, you should be able to tell me X, Y, and Z. This is what he's going to do if he gets elected. You can't tell me that
They don't know.
because you don't know.
They don't know.
And then at that, I walked away. I said, you know what? This is why we get, you know what? And I said this before with a candidate for governor, and you know who he was. I said, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you're getting. This is what we got
I think that's
on a lot of levels, not just the state
Right.
level, the city level, the federal level. It's the same mentality at all levels, but I'm speaking now at the local level.
Okay, so let's look at politics and deconstruct the problem like you would a mechanical thing. All right.
You're going to get under that hood like Ross Perot.
Well,
huh?
you got to get under the hood, right? So if you're going to troubleshoot
Yeah.
any first you got so troubleshoot. What is wrong with this thing that isn't working right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you go through a series of whatever diagnostics yes. to get to where the problem is. All right, so I think you have to do the same thing when it comes to how people are voting. If this is what they do, then that is what they do. One has to deduce that because every system produces what it's designed to produce. A lot of people like it the way it is. And if there's more of them than those that don't like it, then the way it is going to continue. So if I don't know what the guy does, right? They don't know what he does, but one thing he will do is keep me in power. So unless you can overcome that dynamic, they don't care what he does as long as he does what they want. Correct. And that is what you have to overcome. So how can my candidate do what you want? What is it that you want from your candidate? My candidate can do that. See, we're not engaging the opposition in meaningful ways. We turn it into almost like a team sport. And the person knows their team is the worst team ever, but they're still gonna go with them because that's their team. And you push them into their entrenchment. Mm-hmm. Because now it just becomes a matter of the fight for the principle of I'm standing up for my man. I'm standing up for my guy. And that's where you have it. So irrespective of who is in office, we can still present them with our demands. Absolutely. And how to get from point A to point B. Mm. And I think you can even demand of your elected officials, because they are your representatives.
That's right.
To come and help me craft legislation for what I want. Well, I'm not in favor of that legislation. I didn't ask you if you were in favor. You are my representative, right? Yes. You know how to write bills? Yes. Will you or will you not help me craft legislation? Let me know so I can go out and let my neighbors know.
That's right. Yes, that's right.
Or should I go to an opposite party or another state legislator and ask them to help me craft my bill? Should I be standing next to them at the Capitol? That's right. Saying, this person from Stanford helped me craft legislation that my own state reps and state senators wouldn't. And I'm so proud to stand next to them knowing that this has a chance of seeing the light of day. I don't know that it'll pass, but at least he took the time to care for me. Had me on his mind. Took the time to legislate for me.
That's right.
Didn't have to do it, but he did, right? I mean,
right.
Until we have that kind of an attitude.
You have to go and get the help where you can get it.
Get the help where you can get it. There's 169 towns. There are legislators all over the state who will advocate for your cause, even though yours might not. And I think when we start making the demands,
it's big picture thinking.
You have to think big picture.
Absolutely.
You have to.
I agree.
Because it is what it is, which is what you were talking about. So it is what it is. It's not going to be anything different. So based on where we are, what do?
Yeah. Well, I think sometimes, you put a lot of emphasis on the elected officials, the candidates that's in, political power, whether it's city council, state representatives, state senators, which that's a tremendous political structure that you have. But I also wonder about, and I guess Vicky, you're part of a nonprofit organization. Okay, I don't know if you classify yourself as a community activist. Being part
I've been called those things. Well, listen, I am a community activist. I wear that as a badge of honor. I mean, I grew up in this city. I've come up through the educational system here. And also the state university system. Who better to advocate than somebody that's come up through the system, come up through the ranks?
Well, that's my point. Sometimes the people in the community sometimes have to go to people that they feel can still serve their needs. I mean, everybody not gonna have the voice to go to state legislator for whatever reason. I mean, you're now the president of the African American Alliance. That's open to the community. You know, you may not be satisfied with what you're hearing, but you're available to the community. I mean, I got to be honest. I remember the days of the African American Alliance when they started down at Hal's Diner, and they was transforming ideas, trying to make things happen. I mean, I don't think you was always in favor of marching in front of MDC buildings for more minority contractors or more job opportunities.
Well, I marched in front of
you
the
did
MDC.
march, yes. So that answers the question. And I guess you were in favor of that approach.
I marched in front of the MDC and lost contracts because I marched in front of the MDC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because sometimes it's bigger than you.
it's bigger than you, yeah.
Well, people get
Right,
pissed
so
off.
you
do something, you upset the apple cart, people get pissed off.
Well, as they should. I mean,
This is nothing new.
Yeah, but that's as it should be. I believe that if you're going to advocate for the community is bigger than you.
Okay.
That's why it's called community. So if you're advocating for the community, then you advocate for the community. So will some people go down? Yeah, that's what's wrong with the community.
Right.
Well, I don't want to put my job on the line. Then get out.
That's right. Leave. Go.
Ain't no one asking you to be here if you're.
It's like
if you
a war.
Feel,
It's like a war, Stan. When you sign up, when you enlist,
right?
there is a chance that you're going to get
Hurt, harmed, maimed, or killed.
It's going to happen. It could happen, but it also you could come back, and you're in one piece.
Right. When the community is willing to stand up and take a hit, when members of the community are willing to stand up and take a hit, then you get people's attention. But if you're afraid that you're going to lose your contract or you might lose your job, then you can easily be bought or compromised.
Right.
You'll stand down and be quiet because you don't want to be hurt. As long as you're willing to stand down and be quiet, then I can come with a check. What number do you need on the check?
That's right.
To shut up, stand down. And now you're done.
That's right.
Okay, so it's when people say, you know what? You can't write a check big enough. And if you're going to shoot me, don't miss.
Oh, man.
I mean,
That's pretty straightforward.
But I'm just being, so I irrespective of whether or not I was in favor of marching, because I don't believe marches in and of themselves. Theoretically, marches only bring attention.
Right.
Right.
It's like one of the tools.
One
in
of the tools,
toolbox.
right.
And people look at what Dr. King did. He ran it on 2 tracks. He ran it on the marching to get the attention, but he also did the backroom work, which was the crafting of that legislation, understanding the congressional procedures and everything like that, and working with the presidents. You have to have a 2-track system if you're going to do this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, excuse me.
No, I'm sorry.
I mean, I will tell you from what I was told. Actually, someone who used to be a community activist that had just passed away, Reverend Noah Wyatt.
Yes.
He used to be president.
Used to be president
of the Alliance.
But he said a long time ago, community activist is a thankless job. You don't
Of
get
course
paid
it is.
any
Of course.
money. People look for you for this. They look for you for that. I mean, you might not even get a lunch out of the whole deal.
I hope
I
not.
don't need a lunch. I'll cook my own lunch,
Your
and
own
I'll cook lunch for
right,
you
right,
guys
right.
too.
You don't get paid any money.
Rib sandwich and a Kool-Aid.
Yeah. Now, although some people will tell you on a national level, people like Reverend Al Sharpton have been able to get money being a community
Well,
activist.
So
bless his heart.
Yeah,
There's a way you can-
that's another show.
Another show, yeah.
Yeah.
But the real, true community activists that's really out to serve the community, you take your time, you take your energy to fight for issues.
There are different ways to get things done. You talked about the person who has to sometimes get themselves together. 20 people are running for the train.
Yeah.
Then it's incumbent upon everybody running for the train to get on it.
Right.
You can't help everybody do everything.
Yeah.
Sometimes people have to have enough skin in the game to get their own self on the train.
Right.
So that's their responsibility. Now, maybe when you get on the train, if you want to do what's best for everybody, you might tell the conductor to ask the engineer to stop the train so that everyone could get on.
Right.
Okay, that may be bigger picture and broader, but maybe they're not going to stop the train. Everyone not going to get on. And I think at some point you have to realize that that's part of the equation. We don't want to leave anyone behind, but you don't stop everything moving forward
Right.
to go back and get
Right.
the folk who are sitting down in the lawn chairs waiting for you to come and pick them up and put them on the train.
This is it. This is
That
it.
that has to stop because
Yeah.
we waste too much time trying to fight for folk who don't have any skin in the game, won't put any skin in the game, don't want to do anything, but will have their hand out first in line.
Absolutely.
And
you know what?
you need leadership that says to those folk, bye,
Yeah.
bye.
There's only so much you can do. I mean, I mean, personally, I have talked to people about making improvements in their lives. I said, listen, this is what, if you're going to do this, this is what you need to do. So I've presented options. Now, if they don't take advantage of it, do you think I'm going to continue wasting my time prodding them to do what I just suggested that they do? Absolutely not. Because that pulls me down by being with them. So I say, no, here's the presentation. Here's what you need to do. This is where you go get the information. Now it's on you to go and get it. I'll see you later. I'm moving on. And that's what you have to do. You have to just present the information and keep it moving. If they choose to deal with it, if they choose to take advantage of it, fine, great. Well, that's it. If they don't, fine. And if you want to stay in that pit, you can stay in that pit. Stay there. I'm moving on.
And it's legitimate.
Yeah.
As I always say, everyone don't want to leave the plantation. There's a lot of people like life on the plantation.
Don't you remember the scene from Hollywood Shuffle where they're in that tunnel and Robert Townsend says, well, Master's been good. I don't know why we should leave. The man says, Master is killing us. I'm out of here.
Well, for some people, life on the plantation is cool.
Yeah. Well,
No responsibility, just going along to get along. And that is fine if that's what people want.
Right.
I think this is twofold. One, you have to respect people who don't want change. They are entitled to the status quo and let them go about the business.
Right.
Okay, so live and let live. If you're good with that, I'm good with you. And move on. Kick the dust off your shoes and move on. There are plenty of people who would like to make an effort to move things forward. Find them.
Right.
Yeah.
Present,
Like minds.
and change can come.
Right.
Well, again, the network is the perfect example. People got to be willing to meet you halfway. You're providing the platform. You do the technical operation, but you need hosts, and you've had different hosts throughout your throughout this new format that you started here at this location, because everybody's not committed. Everybody's not serious. They're not going to show up every single week.
You talking about people in general, or
Talking about people? No, not in general. People
mean
that
the
was
host?
part of
Part of the programming?
Yeah, part of the past hosts.
No, all of our hosts are dedicated and
True.
we don't have anybody who's not willing to show
Right.
up or toe the weight. I mean, that's people have life experiences that change
Changes,
circumstances
right.
whereby
They're not able to
doing
come here. Yeah.
broadcasting for no revenue
Right.
on all sides
On all sides.
is not something that's a good use of their time, particularly if they get a job.
Right. That's true.
So, it's like WRTC or any of our colleagues that do this stuff without compensation, like a CUTE at QTQ and WRTC and WWUH and Stick up in Springfield. There's a whole host of commentators, radio and television, who do this because of their love for the community. And so, if you have time to do it, like I do, all right. But
you have a committed staff. That's true. Maybe in the beginning, like you say, you could screen out when you first was getting started here. In 2012, you trying to select a group of producers.
Well, we want people. When I started this, I really, believe it or not, Jonathan, as you do know.
I do, though. You said the story before.
This is an old story. Folk out there, the reason I'm here right now is because of Jonathan.
Yeah. The phone callings.
Jonathan used to call me every day. He would leave exactly 3-minute long conversations because he knew that's how long the tape would go. Your answer machine would go before it would cut off. And he would leave whole productions in 3 minutes on there. Sound bites, commentary. He produced a whole little 3-minute show.
Right.
And then Jonathan would call me about the show that he produced or the recordings he would leave.
Right.
It became much more better use of my time to just do a show for Jonathan.
Right.
I tried to get him to go to the public access station and produce his own show. He wasn't doing it. I said, Jonathan, come on down here. I'll do the show for you. I will do the show.
Right.
So he came down every day, did 15-minute show. And then that turned into what we are now.
Exactly.
Okay, so I had the time. I love to do this. And in between my clients, it allows me to stay sharp and also give back to the community. So it's a lot of fun. I enjoy doing this. I can think of nothing else I would rather do. I get up in the morning. I can't wait to come in here. And then after the shows are over, I become anxious because I want to do another show. But I had to moderate that. So I don't do it as much now as I did before. I basically do my own shows. In this show, I include y'all who come in here and contribute. And hopefully we share good information with the community.
Well, truthfully, I agree with that 100%. The only thing I have some issues with is, it's your network. It's up to you to make the final decision. But I have made some recommendations to some elected officials. I think this network should get funded. You're not a nonprofit, so that's going to always be the first question that people will ask. Okay, is AccessTV.org network a nonprofit? You're not a nonprofit, so you're not eligible for grants.
Right.
But your service over the years, and obviously I'm part of the network, but even if I was not technically part of the network, I would say, what you've done and what this network has done, particularly for a Black voiceless community throughout Connecticut, because even Thomas Madison stated that, he can't do a track record of some of the businesses that's ongoing in Stamford. I think only city-related projects. But the long and short of it is, funding, whether you want to make this a business stand or you want to keep it, in the business format that it is, we do need a Black media format, and you do provide that. But I think the business model of somewhat taking it to the next level, I believe even Howard Hill suggested to you a few years ago.
Stay tuned in 2021.
That he wanted you to have 5 employees. Was that what he asked you one time? That you should be able to put...
Employees are cumbersome.
Cumbersome, yeah.
I've run things before with employees.
Okay.
Right.
But that's a whole different level now when you have to have a staff and insurance. So I understand you may not want that responsibility. I can relate to that.
And you need money.
You need money.
You need real money.
Right.
And you need 2 things you need in broadcasting. You need revenue and you need viewers.
Viewership, right.
Viewers. And I mean you need viewers. I've been doing this a long time. And there's only really 2 reasons to broadcast. Message or profit.
Profit, yeah.
And if you're going to do profit, then you have to have something that many people are going to want to watch. And that, so then it doesn't become who's listening. It becomes how many are listening. And at that point, you don't care how many. I mean, you don't care who they are, just as long as they listen. and you find a thing that causes people to come to you and listen. So if it's conservative talk, then you do conservative talk. If it's liberal talk, you do liberal talk. If it's Duck Dynasty, then you do hillbilly Haven. You do. There's a lot of money in hillbilly genre programming, and there's no black. Where's the black hillbillies show? We need us a black hillbilly
channel.
I mean, you start, and it becomes meaningless.
Yeah.
I have colleagues on the profit side who have said to me over and over again, I wish I could do what you do.
Yeah.
But they can't because they got to eat. I'm blessed that I don't eat off of this. Otherwise, I would be trapped in having to do what you're.
Well, how does CBTV get around this? Is CPTV?
CBTV would be off the air if it wasn't.
They have a program. They have the telethon.
If it wasn't
donations,
donations.
The government supports.
The government
them.
supports them. Yeah.
PBS,
By and large part, public broadcasting. If PBS had to survive strictly on ad revenue, they would join the ranks of everyone else that came before, because they just don't have the numbers. They don't have the numbers. Oprah would be off the air if it wasn't Oprah's wealth behind her network.
Her network, yeah. Numbers are the key.
Numbers are the key.
Yeah.
And no one's going to advertise on your network if you don't have numbers. People don't like Rush Limbaugh, but Rush has 35 million people listening to him at any given moment of the day.
That's the whole name of the game.
Name of the game. And Rush, the genius of Rush, is the people that hate him listen, and the people that love him listen. That is the perfect model for pitchmen.
Yeah.
And that's what on-air people are. They pitch opportunities to sell you stuff. I don't want to necessarily be a pitchman, except for information for our community. Right. That's what we pitch, information, so that the people in our community can have information upon which to make decisions. Because there is no media for people of color in this area. Yeah. That does that. No slight to K&D or
well, it's different, like that, I mean, I think a lot what's out there is not, I don't say this to slam anybody, but it's not thoughtful commentary. It's a lot of laughing, a lot of singing, a lot of stereotypical behaviors. I'm sorry. It is what it is. Right. I mean, there isn't information that our community can take and use, and I think a lot of the programming that we've done on here has been very thought-provoking, and I believe it's probably helped people on a lot of levels. We just don't know who they are, but it's intelligent conversation. There is no singing and dancing and shucking and jiving here. We get down to the nitty gritty here, and it's important. It's important, that we have these conversations, that information is disseminated to help the community make better decisions. And so, if you really like what you're seeing here, then support us. And you can support us in a variety of ways. I mean, I'm not going to, lie and say that, you can come on as a guest. You can certainly do that. You can show your financial support. You can show your ad support. So there's a variety. You can tell a friend, but, all of these things are important. So there's really three legs here to this programming. So if you like what you see and you want this to expand, then as I always say, put your money where your mouth is.
And I believe you're a level above the public access station. I know they would have a monthly, I guess that's part of the cable subscription with the public access station.
Public access is supported by the subscriber dollar.
The subscriber dollar, yeah. Right. $1, whatever you add every single month.
It's a monthly fee. It's a monthly fee. I think it's disseminated quarterly, as I recall. Based upon total number of subscribers, so you get like $7 or $8 per subscriber,
and this is
and
really
it's
good.
broken out into So public access television, generally speaking, does not need to raise funds. The funds come. So whatever they raise in addition to those funds is gravy. But here the fund is the Stan and Aisha fund.
Right.
My wallet.
Your wallet, your own personal money.
But as I say to people, I thank you for the gift of your time, because the greatest thing that you can contribute to anything or anyone is time. Time is more precious than anything, because you only have so much of it.
Right.
And every day your time bank is running down. It may be closer to the zero than most people realize, but it's running down towards zero.
Yeah.
And no one's going to have extra time. It's appointed unto man once to die, after that to judgment. And when your time is up, it's up. So what did you do with your time? So I always appreciate when people gave out of their time. And so I tell them, thank you for the gift of your time, because that is truly a gift. That is philanthropic.
Yeah.
Philanthropy is more than giving money. The best philanthropic gift someone can give is their time.
Well, you're going to have some more shows to do before the end of 2020. But I would assume you want
5 more.
5 more shows before 2020?
Yeah, 4.
4. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Friday.
You sure 4? Friday is the first.
Yeah.
So Tuesday, Wednesday.
Well, I guess 3.
3. Exactly.
3.
Right. Well, again, I think this was like, scratching the surface for I think you started this about the second half of the year, maybe April, May, or June, some July.
April we started.
We started in April. We were supposed to be on WKND.
Oh.
But top management at K&D were dragging their feet for whatever reason.
First time you made that statement, I think you didn't want to mention that in the beginning, but that's the first time I've ever heard you over the air tell the listening audience that was
K&D thinks I'm not telling the truth. I give them all the time they have.
That's right. Welcome to come on.
Welcome, come on and set the record straight.
Right.
That's not because upper management at K&D. Not. We had an advocate that really was trying to get us on, but she has people who she answers to, and there was, I guess, an effort not to give us a voice. That's the only thing I can conclude.
Well, independence is always better.
Absolutely. And
we could have been in a situation where we would have been shackled.
We would have been shackled.
And who wants to be shackled? Slavery's over, folks,
Right. I always wanted to do the program here.
Right.
But for the greater community good, I would consent to do it for WKND and not take a dime. It won't be the first time. I did 3 years of programming on K&D for nothing. And they were running ads.
Right.
And you had a program. This was packaged in such a way that a smart business person should have taken advantage of it. But everybody's different.
Well, everyone's business model is different, and they're free to do what they want.
That's
but
fine.
I believe our community needs a voice.
Right.
It doesn't need people talking about the need.
Yeah.
It needs a voice. So I have the time, I have the means, and I have the tools. So now it's shame on me if I just sit around and don't do nothing. So I'm here.
Well, we've come a long way. The old days of WKNG, and we've definitely, I believe, outgrown it with social media anyway. You could still have that format, but the days of the 80s, the 90s, when you had the regular listening
70s,
audience, 70s too, formats, you had the different shows, What's on Your Mind, the people in the community would call in, participate, talk about their problems, talk about what's needed to be done,
the issues,
the issues, and I think that was even connected to the Breakfast Club or the African American Alliance. They would have meetings at, like I mentioned earlier, at Hal's Diner. But again, we don't have that type of radio media format today.
Well, people don't listen to radio like they used to.
Listen to radio. That's true.
They could, but
It's only at certain times. I think it's certain times that they listen to it.
Drive time, and it takes marketing and intentionality, and brighter minds than mine make those decisions. So brighter minds do what they do. I'm not in charge of that, so I don't. If I were, I would do it differently.
Yeah.
So when I'm in charge of stuff, I do things the way I think things should be done.
That's right.
That's what happens when. That's the beauty of being the person responsible for key decisions, is that you get to make them for better or for worse. But when it's under your care, then you do what you think is in the best interest, giving deference to everyone else. But the key decisions are left upon those individuals who are in those leadership positions, and organizations rise or fall based upon them.
Right. Well, I mean, like I said, I think I'm going to try my best to continue being participant on this format for Mondays.
Giving Jonathan his
I love
his 10-minute overtime.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Jonathan was famous for half-hour show being 45.
45 minutes.
Wow, I can't believe we're 10 minutes over.
10 minutes
We're
over.
10 minutes over, yeah.
Okay.
So, actually we're 6 minutes over
6
if
minutes
you
over.
look at the master clock here. 2 hours, 6 minutes, 17 seconds.
Okay. Let's just keep up the good work. I mean, I can't think of no other better way to end it.
So I can already tell Jonathan's got he's in full talk. I'm going to be here after we go off the air at least an hour.
Oh my goodness.
End it for the year. Okay, the last conversation I had for 2020 with Stan McCauley and everything. But this was an interesting show. I really enjoyed
Very
it.
much so.
I know
show.
Jonathan says he was in the sixth grade.
Yeah. And
In the sixth grade, Jonathan.
yeah,
It's been a long time.
Flies, yup.
Time flies.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, as for our outgoing music, special thanks to our guest, Tom Madden.
Madden, yeah.
Like in the sports guy.
Yeah, John Madden.
That was John.
Yeah.
John Madden,
Is he still around?
He's not doing
Oh.
broadcasting. I don't think he's on the NFL networks. But
Legend. Legendary sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had that voice. Boom. He got so many different slogans he could use.
Yeah.
Him and Pat Summerall.
He was a coach, right?
He was a coach for the Raiders.
Yeah. No.
So we need to extend some condolences to attorney Sid Shulman, who lost his lovely wife, Elba, this weekend. Or I think it was recently. I don't think it's this weekend, but it was in the obituary. And also, I just found out that the former principal of my alma mater, South Catholic High School, Father William O'Keefe, passed away.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So condolences to their families, and also a Hartford dentist, Victor Rubino, who was had a practice here in the city many years. He was living in Stuart, Florida. Passed away also, so we lost him. So condolences to all three families.
Well, my
this
friends, life is very, very short, so make the best of your time and give it as a gift to somebody. All right? Okay, Jonathan,
Okay.
Vicky,
Yes.
we will see you all here tomorrow. All right? I think there's a special discussion. The chief executive officer of the household has a special topic she wants to talk about. So we'll see you tomorrow.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.